Hello, I'm JW. This time we have a set of lights that's been sent in. These have been sent in by Rob. And here they are, just a fairly generic set of LED lights. And you've got the individual LEDs there, just spaced along a length of extremely thin wire. And of course, a whole roll of the things at the end. And if you follow the wire along, of course, there's a little box here, which is you can press the button there and select one of many different flashing patterns. And it's a very low-cost item. Of course, these things generally being battery-powered and sold in pound shops and the like. And inside there, you see the cover just pops off, and the whole thing is just sort of clipped together in a fairly poor quality fashion. So the question is, what kind of batteries do you think these things would use? So perhaps AAAs or maybe even AA's. Let's have a look at the end of the wire. And there's the plug, which goes straight into the 230 volts AC mains socket. So yes, these things are in fact mains powered. Here's the plug here. It's one of those awful Euro plug things. 250 volts it says on there, so just shove that direct in your wall outlet. And this horribly thin wiring with its single layer of insulation is all that's between you and killing yourself. And you notice at this end it's already been bent fairly badly, so the insulation is actually probably damaged there before we've even plugged it in. And then so it goes to this little plastic box with a clicky button to select one of 8 apparent different patterns. The back piece here just falls off, and there's your live terminals with, of course, mains voltages on there. And the whole case itself actually is only just clipped together, so that would probably pop open without a great deal of effort. So we'll just stick this back together so we can actually get it to latch in there. And the individual LEDs here, of course, just fixed onto the single insulated strands of wire. And of course it goes along here, and there's a whole load of these obviously, and a big bundle at the end. So let's just open this up and see what's at the other end of this wire. Just sort of ease out the final part of the cable. And at the end of the wire here we have a 230 volt mains socket of the same style that we had the plug at the other end. So of course one fits into the other, so presumably the idea was you could plug this in the mains, and at the other end you can just plug something else in here, such as another set of these. Or how about a hairdryer or a toaster, or about one of those vacuum cleaners, or in fact anything else that happens to have a 2-pin plug on it. Now if you plug a toaster in there, it's going to massively overheat and melt these wires. And of course you think, well, people aren't that stupid, but unfortunately people are. And even if they're not, the fact is you shouldn't have that on the end where you can just literally plug any appliance in there up to the rating of this particular socket, which in Europe is around 16 amps. So let's see if these things actually work. And of course we're going to be using the isolating transformer for this, because who knows what kind of state these things are in, and a tiny little break in the insulation anywhere, and you get a shock from it. So here's our European type socket, and you can see the plug just places straight in there. And this isn't even a proper Euro plug, as you can see, because it's actually too small. They're supposed to fit in those slots there, but it fits into either of the European type outlets with no trouble whatsoever. So let's just switch on and see if they work. Well, as you can see, they have turned on, and presumably if we press this button, then we can get various different patterns to occur, some sort of pulsing effects there, and that seems a bit slower than the other one, but that's sort of a flashing on and off arrangement. So we'll just turn that off before it kills anybody. And just to confirm what's at the end here, we've got this socket here, so let's put the meter in there and actually see what happens. So we've got our power here, the little clicky box, and the meter here just displaying the voltage at the end in volts. So again, let's just turn on and see what it shows. Well, again, they're lit up, and you can see here clearly it's displaying 254 volts, which basically is the full mains potential. So yes, you could actually just plug your toaster or hairdryer in there, or in fact any other appliance, and of course grossly overload the thing. Bearing in mind there's no fuse in any of this arrangement, and although the European outlets are fused on a 16 amp circuit normally, this thin wire of course is going to melt long before that. And again, it still works moderately well, but that's not really the point. A single break anywhere on this insulation, and you're going to get a shock from it. And the other problem as well is if it's a single break anywhere between the cores, it's going to short out the supply, and this whole length of wire is going to act as the fuse and melt and set on fire. Now, before we have a look inside, let's just have a quick look at the note which came with these. So it says, these are the dangerous Christmas lights they bought from eBay a few years ago. Well, of course, no surprise there. And the first thing that struck me was the very thin single sleeve flex, which as you can see there is absolutely the thinnest you can probably buy. It's not even a speaker wire or bell wire thickness, it's actually far less than that. So let's get the ruler in here, and as you can see, the two cores have a width of approximately 2 millimeters, so the actual wire inside is going to be sort of 0.5 or maybe even less in terms of cross-sectional area. There's really no strain relief at the plug end, it could easily just fracture and break there. The socket end is just the same, in fact not worse, because they're actually two wires going in separately. And the dangerous travel adapter that they were supplied with, it has no fuse, and he hasn't actually got this, but it's the one that's featured in one of our other videos, so I'll see a link to that in the usual place. And the back cover just pops off, exposing the live connections, and bearing in mind these are full at mains voltage. And the seller also claimed them to be suitable for outdoor use. Well, pretty obviously that's not the case, because there's absolutely no waterproofing here at all. I mean, these may have a bit of sort of waterproofing on them, but basically the sleeving over the top is loose where the wires enter, and of course this box is full of holes, so water can just pour in. Other than the test they work, I would never use these, and quite right as well, because there's every chance of these causing serious injury, either by electrocution or just setting on fire because something shorted out and the actual mains lead here just acted as a fuse. So let's see how it's actually been constructed, and this case I believe will just pop apart. It seems to be pretty actual flexible there, so you can probably just pry away at it and it will pop open. Yeah, there doesn't seem to be any glue involved. Yeah, it's just a few clips around the edges there, so no tools required for that. And so this piece is just two little pegs which secure it in place there just at the bottom edge. So I've got a single circuit board inside with a very small number of components on that side, and presumably the other side is just going to be blank, or at least with the actual wires and things there. And they've been fixed in here with a bit of hot glue, so we should be able to just peel that away. Yep, that's it. It's simply hot melt glue securing it in, and then some little holes in the board for the pegs in the top to go through. And the switch is just a plastic button which just drops out there. And of course that just presses onto this little button here on the circuit board, and that's what you change the patterns with. So in terms of components then, we've got 4 diodes, so presumably in a bridge rectifier type of configuration. A capacitor there, which is extremely small, it says 10 volts, and that's 30 microfarads there. What sort of brand have we got? Job to know, it claims to be rated to 105. And what's this? HSG Con or something. Well, never heard of it, but anyway, that's what we've got. The little button to change the patterns. A couple of resistors there, one each side. 2 what presumably are transistors there, and a chip which probably does the pattern whatever on some blobbed over kind of little board stuck in there, and that's pretty much it. So yeah, that other board is just shoved through a slot and then just soldered onto the various tracks on the main board at the bottom. That seems a rather strange way of doing it. You would have thought they could have just bunged that on the main board itself. And the other thing about this board is that it's made out of this rather horrible brown material, so definitely not very good quality. It's extremely thin, and if you look at this bottom edge here, it's clearly just been hacked out of a much larger panel. Now, that's fairly common in obviously going to make a printed circuit board, you're going to make a much bigger panel and cut it down, but these edges here, I don't know what someone went with a pair of scissors or something, but that's clearly not been cut or even snapped off properly. So a pretty poor quality piece. Here's a close look at the circuit board, and as you can see the mains comes in here, and the 2 wires just come onto those 2 terminals, and then there's another pair of wires which goes out, and that goes right to the other end of the string where that dubious socket was located. And then we've got the 3 wires here for the actual LEDs, so this will be a common here, and then there's 2 channels, one for each of those transistors on the other side. See the 3 leads there, so also there's a common in the centre, then the input is here, and of course the output is on that side. And so there's the 2 transistors, one for each channel, and they're actually marked 406J, which is some kind of generic transistor, of course. Bridge rectifier there, and say just the little tiny capacitor. And you see the mains just comes up on the sides here into that arrangement of 4 diodes there, and then of course the output comes across and basically goes into this little board in the centre. So you've got your sort of chip just blobbed on there, which does all of the actual functionality, and then of course the only thing is just a little button to click between the 8 output modes. Here's the actual mains plug, and so it has that fake type CE mark on it and various other things claiming it's double insulated, but pretty obviously it isn't. It's just single insulated wire coming out of there, and you can actually see through it. It's a transparent plastic, and it's just the 2 pins there and the wires going straight out. So the wire itself, just compare this on this rule here, the these are centimetres, the large numbers, and you've got your millimetres and then half millimetres, and you can see the wire itself is ridiculously thin, single insulation. Obviously there's no way that's double insulated or rated for mains use. This is the plug at the other end, and again very much the same kind of thing, just got the 2 contacts inside. They've got this sort of weird transparent plastic, there's your metallic contacts and the wires just coming across, and again bizarrely they've actually crossed the wires over inside, and then they just come straight through this laughingly called strain relief. Of course, because the wire's so thin, it's likely to break off at the points where it just comes out of the plastic. Now the actual LEDs, there's 2 circuits, and essentially it's every other one, so you've got all of them wired in series, or 50% of them wired in series. It just comes in and loops through onto the next one, and then the other circuit's the same, it's just the other wire, and so you've got 2 wires coming out with the sort of drive from those transistors, and then the 3rd wire is just the common return, which is all fixed together in the end LEDs. So all these have just the 2 wires until you get to the end, where inexplicably they've joined the mains plug wire in the side there. You can just see it's been soldered and just shoved up inside the heat shrink. That's 2 separate wires, and that's obviously the wire that went to the LED. And then in the last one you've actually got 3 wires with the 2 signals and the common which go in, and obviously they're joined on that soldered piece there. And then this here is the other wire to that plug or socket thing at the end. And again, that's just been for some reason jointed here and just shoved in as well, as if this was actually an afterthought and just sort of tacked on at the end. So of the 5 wires that go along, 3 of them are actually for the LEDs, and the other 2 carry the mains voltage all the way along the whole length of the string right up to the end. So you've got pretty much the mains voltage along the entire length of the thing, so pretty much a damage or fault anywhere will expose the 240 volts to whoever happens to pick it up. Well, I've just had another quick look at the lights there, and it seems they're wired in 2 strings of 50, and it's not even possible to convert it to one of the batteries, because each of the 50 is actually wired in series, so you'd need a voltage of 130, 150 plus just to get the things to light up. So no possibility of converting that to battery, and obviously specifically designed to run on dangerous mains voltages, and the board itself is actually marked 220 volts on the back as well, so I may not be able to get that, but nevertheless it's certainly on there, and there's obviously nothing else you can do with that other than just dispose of it, because although the LEDs are fine, short of chopping them all out and rewiring the entire thing, there's not really a great deal you can do. So a fairly poor quality item, and you'll have to wonder why they went to the bother of actually making it in the first place in that fashion, when of course it would have been just as cheap to make it to run on a battery arrangement, such as most of those things do. So until next time, thanks for watching.